Hey everyone. Welcome to AfriHeart Stories, your go-to spot for African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe and drop a comment. Now sit back and enjoy. The black and white uniform clung tightly to Ella's petite frame as she stepped out of the rickety staff bus that dropped her and four others near the towering estate gates. The mansion loomed like something out of a dream. Wide balconies, golden lights spilling from chandeliers, and soft jazz drifting in the air. She swallowed hard and adjusted her badge. Ella Allowale, Prestige Events Catering. Her shoes, though polished, were second-hand, and her hair was slicked back into a bun that took her 30 minutes and 3 pins to tame. She wasn't here to impress, just to earn. Her mother's hospital bills weren't going to wait. As she approached the front gate like she was instructed, a slim woman in a wine-colored gown appeared. "Excuse me, the service entrance is that way," the woman said with a curled lip, pointing to a narrow alley around the side of the house. Ella opened her mouth to speak but stopped herself. She held out her badge. The woman barely looked at it. "Don't play smart. Go around." A second woman joined her, giggling. "Some people think a neat bun and knockoff shoes make them guests now." Heat rose to Ella's cheeks. But she said nothing. She turned around silently and walked to the back alley. When she reached the service entrance, the smell of frying oil and burnt toast drifted out. A supervisor greeted her. "Ella, right? You're on hors d'oeuvres tonight. Keep your tray high and your eyes low." Ella nodded. The rest of the team were already rushing through final prep. She tied on her apron and began organizing skewers. She whispered to herself, "Just survive the night." But deep inside something hurt. Not just from being redirected like a stray cat, but from how easily it happened. The ballroom was dripping elegance. Glittering chandeliers, silk curtains, and a grand staircase inlaid with marble. Every guest sparkled in designer clothes. Tuxedos that cost more than Ella's yearly salary, gowns that shimmered with imported stones. Ella kept her tray steady as she moved among the guests, offering delicate snacks on silver platters. "Who is she?" whispered a woman with red lipstick and diamonds the size of marbles. "She's not one of us," another hissed. "Probably came in pretending to be part of the staff." As Ella passed a group of 3 older women, one said loudly, "My dear, this is a private event. No outsiders allowed." Ella bowed slightly. "I'm with Prestige Events," she said softly, her voice almost lost in the chatter. "Oh," the woman scoffed, clearly not convinced. "Well, next time, tuck in your shirt. You're making the place look cheap." A few guests laughed. Ella bit down the lump rising in her throat. She turned away and tried to focus on her breathing. In the corner of the hall, a photographer's flash went off, and the room burst into laughter. The disconnect between their glamour and her world was sharp. Ella knew she didn't belong, but did they need to remind her so often? Her fingers trembled. One olive slipped off the skewer onto the polished floor. She quickly knelt, scooped it up with a napkin and kept going. No one offered help. No one even blinked. In that moment she became invisible. And somehow, that hurt more than anything they could have said. An hour passed. Ella was refilling wine glasses when a tall man in a navy suit deliberately turned and bumped into her. The crystal glass tilted. Red wine poured down his cream-colored shirt. "Are you blind?" he bellowed. Ella froze. I'm so sorry, sir. It was an accident." He threw the empty glass onto a nearby table. "I came here to relax, not get assaulted by waitresses." "I'll pay for the cleaning," she stammered. The man laughed cruelly. "Pay? With what? Your tip jar?" The crowd around them began to notice. Murmurs grew louder. A woman whispered, "Where do they even find these people?" Ella bowed deeply. "Please let me get you a towel." He waved her off. "You've done enough." A young woman in a golden dress leaned in. She should be fired. Ella's hands clenched tightly behind her tray. She blinked hard, willing the tears not to fall. She escaped quickly to the kitchen. The laughter echoed behind her like a slap. The kitchen was loud, clanging pans, shouted orders, steam rising everywhere, but it still felt safer than the ballroom. Ella hid in a corner, arms crossed, breathing deeply. Her friend Bola handed her a cold water bottle. "Ignore them. Rich folks think pain is entertainment." Ella forced a smile. "I'm okay." "Girl, that's a lie. I just want to finish my shift." She peeked through a small gap in the curtain to see the ballroom again. The chandeliers sparkled. The air shimmered with perfume and arrogance. She spotted a man at the center of a crowd, but his back was turned. For a second, she imagined herself standing at the center, not in uniform but in a dress that flowed like royalty. She pictured heads turning for the right reason. One day, That's what she whispered to herself. Someday. Then she noticed a large photo on the hallway wall just beyond the ballroom. She squinted. Something about the man in the frame seemed familiar. Girl, Vivian is calling for napkins upstairs, Bola said. Ella blinked. Me? She said you. And she didn't sound nice. Ella grabbed a fresh set of napkins and headed toward the private wing of the mansion, up the grand staircase. As she walked past the portraits, her steps slowed. She stopped in front of the photo she saw earlier. It was him. Fola. Her husband. Her knees nearly buckled. The image showed him in a tuxedo, standing with dignitaries, smiling like he owned the world. Because he did. She stared, heart hammering. How could she not know this was his mansion? Fola had disappeared into the shadows for 3 years. He'd gone quiet after a corporate scandal rocked his family empire. He told her to stay hidden until things cleared. She agreed. She never asked questions. She just waited. Now here she was, being mocked and humiliated, in his house. Are you lost? Came a sharp voice. Ella turned. Vivian stood at the top of the stairs in a white satin gown, pearls hanging from her neck like armor. Sorry, ma'am. Napkins? Ella said quickly. Vivian narrowed her eyes. Don't touch anything. Just leave them. Ella nodded, set them on the table and turned to go. As she walked back down the stairs, her mind raced. Was Fola here? Was he watching? And if he was, would he speak? 3 years earlier. The sound of a heart monitor beeped steadily in the background. Ella stood at the nurse's station in her faded pink scrubs, trying to reorganize patient files when a deep voice interrupted her focus. Excuse me, can you help me with something? She looked up to see a man in a black t-shirt and sunglasses, holding a cup of vending machine coffee like it was foreign. His tone was polite, but he didn't look like he belonged there. I'm not a nurse, she replied, tucking a stray braid behind her ear, but I can try. I'm looking for Mr. Johnson's room. Oh. Room 608, take the elevator to the 3rd floor and go left. He smiled. Thanks. I'm Fola. I'm Ella. And that was the beginning. He showed up again the next day. And the next. She learned he was visiting a sick mentor. He learned she worked 2 shifts to support her younger siblings. They had lunch once. Then dinner. Then a walk under the hospital courtyard lights. 6 months later, they married quietly in a registry office, just the 2 of them and 2 witnesses. I don't want the world in our business, he'd said, brushing her cheek with a thumb. Not yet. There are enemies in my circle. Let me clear my name. Then I'll give you the life you deserve. She believed him. For 2 years, they were long-distance lovers in secret. Then silence. His business empire was reportedly frozen. She heard whispers, lawsuits, betrayal, family feuds. She stayed hidden. Loyal. Unshaken. But now she was standing in his house, and being treated like a nobody. She wasn't just some caterer. She was his wife. And tonight, something told her he was near. Back in the kitchen, Ella stirred the soup pot, her hands trembling. You all right? Bola asked, wiping sweat from her brow. Ella nodded vaguely, unsure of what to say. Did you hear the gossip? Another staff member piped in. The mansion owner's supposed to show up tonight. Himself. In person. I heard he's crazy rich. Never seen in public. Private jets, bulletproof cars. Married to some foreign heiress or something, said another. Ella kept her head low, heart hammering. She had no clue what Fola had told the world. Maybe he'd hidden their marriage entirely. Maybe he'd moved on. Or lied. One thing was clear, she had to be invisible again tonight. Until she knew where she stood. Vivian stormed into the kitchen, interrupting her thoughts. Which of you is on dish duty? She barked, eyes scanning the team. Ella hesitated. You, Vivian snapped, pointing. You were the one caught resting by the stove, weren't you? No, Ma. I don't want excuses. Grab an apron. Now. Everyone froze. Bola looked at Ella apologetically. The chefs turned away. Ella took the apron in silence. She went to the sink. Piles of dirty silverware, glasses, and trays awaited. As she scrubbed, tears blurred her vision. How many more ways could she be humiliated in one night? As Ella scrubbed a stubborn lipstick stain off a wine glass, the door opened. Laughter trickled in, sharp, mocking. Well, well, came a familiar voice. It was the woman in the wine-colored gown from earlier. I told you she didn't belong here, another guest chimed in. They had wandered into the kitchen, glasses in hand, tipsy and bold. Vivian followed closely. She needs to learn some humility, she said with a smirk. She thought she was a guest. The first woman mocked. Now she's elbow deep in soap. One of them pulled out a phone and began recording. Smile for the camera, darling. Future Instagram star. Laughter echoed. Ella froze. Her hands were soaked. Her pride shattered. Every instinct told her to scream, to throw the dish, to walk out. But she didn't. She kept scrubbing. What's your name? A woman taunted. Ella said nothing. Oh, she's mute now? Suddenly the room fell silent. All eyes turned to the doorway. Fola had walked in. The kitchen's energy shifted like lightning hitting still water. Fola stood there in a tailored black tuxedo, gold cufflinks glinting under the industrial lights. He looked like he had walked out of a magazine and into the middle of a nightmare. His gaze swept the room. He saw the mocking guests, the phones, the stunned staff. Then he saw Ella, hands soaked, face flushed, shoulders trembling. He didn't speak. He just walked forward. One guest chuckled nervously. Fola, we were just having a bit of fun. But he ignored her. He reached Ella and gently took the sponge from her hand. He placed it in the sink. Ella couldn't breathe. Go change, he said quietly to her, but his voice carried power. This isn't your place tonight. Everyone stared. One woman whispered, what's going on? Vivian was pale. Fola turned to the room. This woman, he said slowly, is not your staff. She is not your joke. She is my wife. A collective gasp filled the kitchen. Phones dropped. Mouths hung open. Ella's lips quivered. Her fingers clutched the edge of the sink. I told you not to overwork yourself, he added, turning to her. Didn't I? Her eyes filled with tears, but for the first time tonight they were not from shame. The moment stretched in stunned silence. Fola reached out and gently lifted Ella's chin. Her heart thundered in her chest. He leaned in and kissed her forehead. Not a showy kiss. Not a performative gesture. But a gentle, reverent kiss that said, I see you. I'm sorry. I'm here. Gasps echoed louder than applause. Vivian took a step back, her pearls rattling. One guest dropped her champagne glass. The crash startled no one. They were too frozen by the scene unfolding. Fola took Ella's hand. You look tired, my love. Let's go. Ella swallowed, unsure of how to respond. Everything in her wanted to fall into his arms and scream, but the eyes of Lagos elite burned holes through her. Fola, Vivian stammered. This girl, she was just. She is my wife, Fola said calmly, and the only woman in this house I answer to. Since when? A man asked from the shadows. Since 3 years ago. And now I'm done hiding her. He turned to Ella. Come home. She didn't move at first. Then slowly she untied the apron. She handed it to the same guest who recorded her. You can keep this, she said, voice low but clear. Then she walked beside Fola, head high. As they exited, a hush followed them like a silent parade. The girl in the kitchen apron had just walked out like royalty. And no one could look away. As Ella and Fola stepped out of the kitchen, the echo of their exit spread faster than the music in the ballroom. Guests whispered in shock. Did he say wife? Wait, that woman? But she was washing dishes. Vivian stood in the hallway, frozen. Her carefully powdered face twitched as she turned to follow them, heels clicking in angry rhythm. Fola held Ella's hand tightly. Don't look back, he said softly. They reached the grand staircase when someone called out, Fola. Explain yourself. It was Chief Banjo, one of the investors in Fola's tech firm. His voice was sharp, public. Is this some publicity stunt? Fola turned. No, Chief. It's the truth. I've been married for 3 years. This woman stood by me when the world turned its back. Unacceptable. Vivian spat. This girl embarrassed our entire family tonight. Fola's jaw tightened. The only embarrassment tonight was how she was treated in my house. Vivian flinched. The room fell into stunned silence. Ella whispered, Fola, let's go. He nodded. They walked out the massive double doors, leaving behind champagne, chandeliers, and judgment. But as soon as the doors closed behind them, something cracked. Ella pulled her hand away. You let them humiliate me, she said, voice trembling. I was washing dishes, Fola. I was laughed at, filmed. He tried to speak, but she raised her hand. I stayed hidden like you asked. I waited for your return. But you didn't warn me. You didn't protect me. I didn't know you were here, he whispered. I swear on everything I didn't. She studied his face, and for the first time tonight she believed him. But the wound was still fresh. She got into the waiting car. He followed. Inside the silence, neither spoke. But everything had already changed. By morning, Lagos was ablaze. #SecretWife trended on every platform. Blogs posted side-by-side photos of Ella in her catering uniform beside Fola in his tuxedo. Memes flooded the internet, from Sink to Queen. Some were cruel, others reverent. TV hosts debated, who is she? Where did she come from? Fola's PR team scrambled. Vivian released a statement mid-morning. Last night's events were a misunderstanding. We regret any inconvenience caused to our guests. The family is handling the matter privately. But the world wasn't buying it. Every woman who had been overlooked, humiliated, underestimated, now saw herself in Ella. Meanwhile, Ella stayed quiet. She sat curled on the penthouse couch, staring at the skyline. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Bola had texted, "You're trending, girl." Then again, "I told them not to mess with you." She smiled faintly. Fola emerged from the study, tie loose, holding his phone. "My board is panicking," he said. "Because of me?" "Because they didn't know the truth." She looked at him. "And now they do." He nodded. "They want a press conference." She shook her head. "No. No. I'm not a scandal to clean up, Fola." "I know," he said gently. "You're the story they never expected." They sat on the balcony that night, wrapped in silence. "I owe you an apology," Fola said finally. Ella sipped her tea, waiting. "For keeping you hidden. For not preparing the world to meet you. I thought I was protecting you, but maybe I was protecting myself." "You were ashamed," she said quietly. "No," he looked at her, eyes heavy with regret. "I was scared. Of what the world would say. Of how they'd treat you. But you handled last night better than I did." She looked out at the city lights. "I'm done hiding," she said. "Are you sure?" "Yes." He nodded. "Then they'll see you. All of you. On your terms." She turned to him. "Let me decide how I'm introduced." "Anything you want." Her phone buzzed again. "An invitation." "You should do an interview," Fola said. "I will." "But not because they asked," she replied. "Because I have something to say." The studio was warm, lights bright, the interviewer well prepared but careful. Ella wore a navy blue jumpsuit, hair natural and face soft. No dramatic makeup. No designer gown. Just presence. The camera rolled. "Ella Alawale," the host smiled. "You've become an overnight symbol for quiet strength. How do you feel?" Ella took a breath. "I didn't expect any of this. I just went to work. I was doing my job. And then? And then the world remembered what humility looks like." The host blinked, surprised. "People keep asking how I went from a caterer to a billionaire's wife," Ella continued. "But the truth is, I was already his wife. I just wasn't wearing diamonds when they met me." She paused. "Respect isn't about wealth. It's about character. You don't wait to see what someone owns before treating them with kindness." The clip went viral. Not because she was angry, but because she wasn't. 3 weeks later, Ella returned to the mansion. But this time, she didn't wear an apron. She wore a tailored cream gown, hair in soft curls, and subtle heels that clicked confidently as she walked the same corridor where she once carried napkins. The occasion? A new charity gala, co-hosted by Fola and Ella, supporting hospitality scholarships for underprivileged women. Vivian was present, but silent. The same women who laughed now offered soft smiles. Some even curtsied. Bola, now employed as lead supervisor, ran over. "Madam Ella," she grinned. "I never imagined." Ella hugged her tightly. "You deserve to be here too." In the ballroom, a large screen displayed images of young girls who'd received funding through Ella's new program. She stepped to the podium. "Some weeks ago, I stood in this house as a servant. I was laughed at, filmed, shamed. But tonight, I stand as your host, not because I'm married to Fola, but because I found my voice." The applause was thunderous. And in that moment she knew she wasn't just being seen. She was being heard. The cameras clicked like lightning as Ella descended the same staircase where she once bowed her head in shame. But tonight was different. Tonight, Ella wore a flowing crimson evening gown, bold against her glowing dark skin, paired with gold earrings shaped like flames. Her hair was swept to one side, cascading in elegant curls. Her walk was deliberate, like every step erased a memory of the woman who once carried dirty plates through this same room. The guests stood as she approached. At the bottom of the staircase stood Fola, proud in a classic tuxedo. He extended his hand. She took it. He raised his glass. "Tonight we celebrate not just charity, but clarity. For every woman who was told to shrink, this night belongs to you." He turned to Ella. "And tonight I honor my wife, not as a secret, but as the co-owner of this estate and the foundation we built together." The applause roared like a wave crashing through the room. But Ella didn't go to the podium. Instead, she walked through the tables, to the kitchen. There, she hugged Bola and the other caterers. "You're the real reason this event runs smoothly," she said. "Thank you." Vivian watched from a distance, lips pressed tightly. And for the first time, she didn't speak. The morning after the gala, Ella held a press conference. Not about drama. Not about scandals. About purpose. "We are launching a new initiative," she said, standing beside a row of young women in aprons and work badges. "The Grace Over Gold program will fund education for girls in hospitality and fashion." A reporter raised a hand. "Why fashion?" Ella smiled. "Because appearance is used to judge worth. But I want girls to design their own labels, not just wear someone else's." The announcement went viral. Donations poured in. Influencers reposted her message with hashtags like #GraceOverGold and #RespectBeforeRiches. Even international outlets picked it up. In a soft-lit room later that evening, Ella told Fola, "I don't want to just be a wife to a billionaire. I want to be a voice for girls who feel invisible." He took her hands. "Then speak louder. I'm right behind you." She looked around the estate that once felt so far away. Now it was hers to shape. It came unexpectedly. At the second Grace Over Gold gala, as guests trickled in, Vivian stood near the back. She wore a simple gray dress, nothing flashy, just quiet. Ella noticed her but didn't make a move. Later, while checking event logistics, Ella returned to her seat and found an envelope. A handwritten note rested on top. "Ella, I was wrong. I saw only what I wanted to see: status, control, tradition. I judged you without knowing you. And for that I am sorry. Vivian." Ella read it twice. Then folded it, placed it back on the chair and walked away. Fola watched from across the room. "You won't reply?" She shook her head. "Some apologies don't need answers. They need change." Vivian looked over once during the gala. Ella didn't return the look. Because forgiveness wasn't always about words. Sometimes it was about walking forward without hate. At a corporate mixer weeks later, Ella wore a sleek black pantsuit. Not because she wanted to prove anything, but because she could. As she sipped her mocktail, a man approached her sheepishly. She recognized him immediately. It was the same guest who spilled wine on her weeks ago. The one who mocked her in front of everyone. He cleared his throat. "Mrs. Allowale?" Ella raised an eyebrow. "Yes. I didn't know back then. I was wrong. I've been following your project. I actually have an idea for a joint venture, catering meets tech." She let him speak. He pitched, stumbled, pitched again. When he was done, Ella nodded politely. "Interesting." He smiled. "But no," she added softly. "I'm not interested." "Oh, okay. But I do appreciate the effort." He blinked, confused by the grace. And that was enough. She didn't need revenge. She didn't need to embarrass him. Because real power didn't shout. It whispered and walked away with its head high. It was the final gala of the year. The mansion sparkled with string lights. Live music floated through the warm Lagos air. The media waited eagerly outside. But tonight there were no masks. No secrets. Ella walked hand in hand with Fola, dressed in ivory with gold embroidery. Her confidence lit the room. The guests who once mocked her now rushed to greet her. One whispered, "She's the real reason this house feels different." Another said, "She changed everything," without ever raising her voice. As the night wore on, the cameras zoomed in on her face, not for gossip, but for admiration. She stood at the podium, paused and smiled. "My name is Ella Allowale," she began. "But you knew that already. What you may not know is, I was never trying to prove myself to anyone. I just refused to disappear." Fola joined her on stage and kissed her hand. The crowd rose in applause. In the crowd, Bola wiped a tear. A new caterer whispered, "That used to be her?" "She still is her," Bola said proudly. "That's the whole point." As flashbulbs lit up the stage, Ella looked around the grand ballroom, the same one where she once served drinks. Now she ruled it. And not a single guest would dare forget her name again. Liked it? Thumbs up, subscribe and join the AfriHeart fam. Your support fuels our stories. Until next time.